does, but also does not exempt someone from doing harm in a scene like that, or often opens the door to harm in something like that. It just killed me that there were no protocols around how it is we handled any scenes with intimacy or nudity or sexuality. And so I was working with the NYU film department with some other stunt people, and which was facilitating stunt coordinators for all their student films. Because they need it just like any film would need it. And one of the students I was mentoring was like, hey, I have a sex scene coming up. How do I handle it? I'm like, great, let's look at our union protocols. Okay. We don't have many union protocols. And it inspired me to look into equity and what their protocols were. And I was like, we have such small protocols. And every person that I talked to was like, what's been your experience doing intimacy on stage? We don't talk about it. Or this happened and I'll never do a scene like that again. And there's just this lineage of trauma and harassment that was really sort of underlying in our world. I knew there was a woman named Tonya Sina who had created something called Intimacy for the Stage. In 2005, she wrote her thesis on it. I looked her up and I called her and she was like, I'm going to be in New York, let's get some coffee. We had a 4-hour meeting in New York. She was like, I just met this woman in Toronto and I think we're going to start a company. Do you want to start a company? And I was like, yeah, absolutely. And so we created Intimacy Directors International, which between the three of us started as a whole bunch of Skype sessions and a whole bunch of research. We went and talked with directors we worked with, talked with more fight directors, talked with coordinators, and then talked with trauma specialists, talked with social workers, talked with psychologists and lawyers, and all of them came with the same thing of like, I can't believe this isn't a thing yet. And we had some success there. We started doing our workshops and working on things. And then Profiles Theater. For those of you that aren't familiar, Profiles Theater is a theater in Chicago that it came out that there was a huge lineage of harassment that was happening in Chicago at this storefront theater. And they were praised for being edgy and gritty, but people were continually abused, harassed, and taken advantage of. There's a huge expose in the Chicago Reader about it. And people suddenly started to go back to us and go, what was that intimacy thing you were talking about? That's where the Chicago theater statements came from, if any of you are aware. And then Me Too happened. And we had already had a good amount of momentum, and people were bringing us in. But it was 2 weeks after Me Too that Juilliard called and asked me to be on a panel. And the next day, they said, okay, how do we make this happen in our space? And Juilliard was the first one that was like, do the makeover, give us our protocols, come in and choreograph on our shows, do the whole thing. And what they have found is a wildly open and conscious base, but also the intimacy ends up being better because people are walking in going, well, I know that I'm not going to get sexually harassed today. I know I'm not going to get injured today. And I know that we have protocols around this. And what happens? People are now confident enough that they can do their best work they've ever done because we don't have that constant fear and danger. And I sometimes tell people, like, think about any time that you were in a room that you had to fight against being othered. That you were like, because I'm a woman, because I am queer, because I am a different color, because of anything. Any of those times that you came into a room and had to mentally fight against that. Now think about if you could have taken all of that energy and put it towards your work that day. Like, how much more productive you would be. So part of this work is when people go, oh, it sounds like it gets in the way. It's like, no, it actually frees us to just fucking do our jobs. It's not this work.
Yeah, absolutely. For For actors who are working in organizations that don't necessarily have those progressive values from top down or haven't recognized yet the need for this kind of work, how would you recommend that they advocate for themselves and bring some of what you do into their spaces?
Sure. One is ask for it. If you're about to go in and do a production of Liaisons Dangereuses, pretty much everyone has seen the press around this work. You ask your director, you ask your artistic director, you say, I would like a specialist. And if they say, you know, we don't think that's necessary, etc., you know, inquire on if they've worked or even reached out before. I take phone calls all the time. And usually there is some way to make it work for that specific project. So yeah, I would say if you're in that situation, you ask. And if there is something that you are feeling unsafe about, you go through the policies. Because sometimes, you know, people will reach out to me and be like, I really want an intimacy director, I can't get my director or the artistic director to agree. And I'm like, okay, like I can do very little from here, but what I can tell you is you get to set your boundaries. You have agency over your body. That's like full stop. That will stand up in court any day of the week. So if you are being asked to put yourself in a dangerous situation, or you're being asked to allow someone to touch you wherever, and you're not okay with that, that is a dangerous situation, and that is the definition of sexual assault. Full stop, regardless of state. And I would invite everyone to look at their state and local laws, because that's part of what we do in intimacy work. So I would say ask for it, be frank about it, but if you're feeling that you are unsafe, you go through the protocols, and every theater should have a protocol of who it is that you report to, that you are being put in an unsafe situation. If you get into a position where it's like, you know, it's not a big intimacy moment, but I want someone there, or we're not doing the communication, you ask the director for choreography in that moment. And plenty of the workshops that we do at IDI is about educating directors so that they can handle those moments of intimacy. You don't need an intimacy director on everything, just like you don't need a fight director on everything. You know how to stage a slap? God bless. Kick out. So you ask the director, because it's not your job as an actor to stage yourself. It's not your job as an actor to be the outside eye of the situation. So it's not your job as an actor to, if the director's saying whatever you all are comfortable with and leaving it at that is a cop-out. You deserve to have direction. You deserve to have something that is going to be set every night.
For someone who's coming at it from the other direction, maybe wanting to become an intimacy director, how would you recommend they go about getting training and experience?
So I would recommend one, train. Coming in, no matter where you're coming from, this is a very new thing, and it is very nuanced, and it is very specific. So if you are interested in becoming an intimacy director or coordinator for film, you want to go to training as far as go through Intimacy Directors International. We have plenty of training that are going on. You can go on our website and you can get, I hate to plug, but seriously.
Plug away.
This is what it is.
Y'all are the ones who are doing this.
Yeah. You go on the website and you can join the, what is it called, the mailing list. You can subscribe to other materials. And then outside of that, the first rule is do no harm. So you research on how to do no harm, and that includes sensitivity training. That includes consent training. That includes mental health first aid training.
Which, for those of you who are local in New York, is provided free by the city.
Surely is, and it's awesome. And every time you go, there's a different facilitator usually, and you get a different thing from it. It's great. It's great to have as a human. But yeah, if you're interested, go to the source of who's creating these protocols. And I will tell you, us at IDI, I currently liaison with ACTRA, with Equity Canada, with HBO, with Warner Brothers in general, with a you know, I would say come to IDI, come to a workshop, reach out, and then do your own research on your own. Because a lot of this is just like any other discipline. Your own practice is going to develop from what you're bringing to the table. Yeah, no, that's it.
Okay.
No, there's one more thing.
All right, yeah, go for it.
This is a situation where the wrong person in this position is worse than no person in this position. Intent and impact are two different things. So we have seen some choreographers come out and with the best of intentions go to choreograph some intimacy and then cause great damage. So I do want to put it out there, don't go into this until you know what you're in for. And if you're in over your head, give us a call, as we'll at least help you out. There's another thing, but I think that's where I'll leave it.
Yeah. I'm wondering if you have seen people, trying to know how to phrase this, interacting with your work differently or understanding what you do differently since Me Too.
Yeah.
Has there been a greater appreciation or a drop in resistance?
Yes, I big time. But then sometimes there's a lot of good because people are like, oh my God, this is a thing that is needed, and people have been put in dangerous situations for a long time. I didn't know until Me Too the scope of how many people were being othered and discriminated against every day. So on one hand, people go, oh, good, this is needed. On the other hand, they go, so you're like HR, right? And I'm like, no, I'm not HR. However, if my presence is going to save you from telling that really lame joke that's going to make someone else feel bad about themselves, I'll take that. That's fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, there is definitely a drop in resistance, and it's awareness. You know, it's awareness that this is something that is needed now.
If something, when you're working with a production with actors, if something goes wrong and harm is done, what would be your steps, your next steps in terms of addressing how they go forward?
It really depends on the situation, but we talk about it.
Yeah.
And a lot of the issues surrounding this work this work is needed for is about power and the power dynamic in a film. Directors, producers have a huge amount of power. And actors can often feel, unless you are a celebrity or even are working as a producer, that you do not have that power. And so having an advocate and a choreographer there helps be on that level so that they can work between all of this. God, what was your question again?
Addressing harm when something
Right.
happens in a rehearsal room or in a performance.
Yeah, so often I'm the first one to come in. It's the same thing of, okay, someone got hit. We're doing a fight scene and someone actually got hit. First, is everyone okay? Do we need a moment? Let's go and get you some first aid, which is why intimacy directors with IDI, we get background checked, we get the full 9, and we all have to do mental health first aid and trauma training. Because that's someone getting sexually assaulted in front of you. And sexual assault and trauma, it's not just about the victim, it's about the aggressor and the witness, and that's everyone. So in a way, the intimacy director or choreographer has to be on call for the room. So it's taking care of the person who is wronged, taking care of the person who did the wrong, because they also deserve support and communication. And then checking in with everyone else, and then we come back and we say, okay, so this happened, we don't shy away, we don't ignore it, we face it, we talk about it, and then we move on from there.
Sounds like a restorative justice practice. little bit.
Good buzzword. Yeah, but
Can
yeah.
we tell I'm a progressive educator? Yeah, very cool. Perfect. Well, I have one more sort of final question to ask you, and then I'd love to open it up for any of you who might have questions for Alicia in our next few minutes. But first, if someone is looking to hire an intimacy director, where do they start for finding the right person who's going to be a match for their project and also competent in the room?
There are people outside of IDI that are doing this. The reason why we created IDI, besides the fact to have a place a non-for-profit that we could do our research, we also wanted to set a standard. And our standards are very high, which is why there are a few of us right now, but we do have a lot of apprentices that we're working with. I would say go to Intimacy Directors International, because that's what I can put my name on. And I wouldn't suggest anyone that I wouldn't put my name on, especially with this specific of work. And as I said, the wrong person is worse than no person. So I would say go to Intimacy Directors International, email, or you can even call. Our numbers are right up there to get to find an intimacy choreographer or director. And if you have a question, you can send an email to info@teamidi, which is right there on it of like contact us. Say, this is what I'm looking at. Someone will give you a call and then we'll connect you with the right person. And if we can't get a full certified intimacy director or choreographer that has gone through everything, we will give you our highest apprentice who is just about to become one of our choreographers, and we'll bring them out. And I would say if you go with other people that are outside of the organization, make sure they have liability insurance, make sure they have training, make sure they are not just a therapist or a movement person that doesn't have any of the other supplemental training. If you're not all-encompassing, then you have a potential to do more harm.
Actually, I said last question, but one other thing just occurred to me. Is there a clear division between director, choreographer, coordinator, and when those different terms are used?
Sure, yes. So a lot of the nuance of the terminology is really just about the dance we have to do with unions and the dance we have to do with our contracts right now. So just in full, all about transparency. This is in transparency here. A coordinator, an intimacy coordinator, is usually for film or TV. And because it's likened to a stunt coordinator. And usually giving that comparison, all the ADs and the people, it's like, oh, okay, we know where you're supposed to be. For theater, we often use intimacy director or intimacy choreographer. I prefer the term fight director in fighting, but we also have unions and like SDC that does not like the term fight director, and it's probably because the directors might get it. So we use fight choreographer. So in general, you can call me an intimacy director or choreographer for stage and an intimacy coordinator for film.
Excellent, thank you. All right, so I wanted to open it up to the floor for questions. Let's start over here in the second row.
I was wondering, along with the mindset of the wrong person can do more harm than no person at all, are there questions that we can ask ourselves or things to think about in how to figure out whether we are the right person?
I wish I had a better response than this right now, but it would be go do some training and talk to a specialist. And also, it's not just the right person, because the right person without the right training can also do plenty of harm. So someone could be like a perfect candidate for this work, but unless they know how legal consent works, unless they know how to handle if someone gets triggered in the rehearsal hall, unless they know how to move forward and not lose time, then be the right person, then get the right training,
Yeah. Over here in the back.
Two-part question. Did you do an NPR interview a few months ago?
I did.
I heard it.
Awesome. Thanks.
Okay, so second part. Do you think that with IDI
consent training for fight directors is wildly important, because just doing that, coming back to fight work, I found myself assuming so much and diving into things and going, oh, I just went ahead and grabbed that person and did that, because of the culture around fight work, and especially being a woman in fight work, where I feel like I have to up the aggressiveness and up things in order to like get on par, which is a whole other conversation. It's a whole other talk. I do think that consent training is huge for the fight world right now. However, I think there are some incredible fight directors and fight choreographers who maybe should not be doing intimacy work. So it would be great for them to have that as a movement specialist. However, I do not see at any point, I would hope it just doesn't become that easily set. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay, great. Over here in the striped shirt.
I'm currently studying directing in college, and I'm just wondering, because there's sort of two routes. Either I get the luxury of having intimacy director, or some of the cheap stuff I don't. So the times when I do, what are the questions I should be asking the intimacy director, and the times that I don't, where's the training I can get?
Is this directing for stage or for film?
For theater.
For theater, great, fantastic. I would say come to some workshops, but also ask your university about intimacy training, because some of the work we do is going out and doing work with directors. Because it's so much of, you can use a lot of the intimacy training with how it is you treat your actors in general. It's in general, like, it's a class I teach called Ethics in Directing, and certainly in acting conservatories as well. I'm not going to trick you into having a mental breakdown in front of me and then call it a breakthrough, which is something that I'm sure a lot of people have been in a situation of. But we can do authentic work that might result in some emotional responses. But a lot of the intimacy work is about making sure that everyone knows what's up and there are no surprises. Or if we're going to improv, we improv within a container. So I would say talk to your university head or your program head about if they can bring out workshops to you